Today's Thursday, October 5th, and I had two different meetings today, but the one that I want to start with was the second meeting, and that was meeting my parole officer for the first time in a actual one-on-one conversation. The night of my release last Thursday, he came here to my house and just popped into the kitchen to make sure I was here, but we didn't really discuss anything in detail. And that's what we did today. And I knew coming home and trying to reestablish myself into society would be difficult, and it would be a challenge, and nothing would come to me easily or be handed to me. But I thought that I would at least be able to go to work, not be dependent on other people, not be a burden to other people. And today, my parole officer, he again stated I'm not allowed to have a bank account. I'm not allowed to drive. And my skill is in home improvement work. Anything. I can build a house from the ground up. I can do any kind of work. And I'm a perfectionist. And it runs in my genes. My grandpa had a construction company, and for the 3-4 years before my incarceration, I had my own home improvement business. And other than running my own home improvement business, I wrote for a newspaper, and I had a rental property and a fruit farm, and I helped my girlfriend at that time, run her consulting business doing economic development work. And so going to a factory or a pizza shop or a McDonald's and punching a time clock and making $10 an hour or whatever people make, that's not something I'm used to. My skill, my marketable skill, is carpentry work, home improvement work. And I actually went Monday and I filed a DBA to doing business as a certificate so I can give myself a business bank account and set myself up with liability insurance and everything. And my parole officer said no, which I find to be kind of ironic, because when I went to prison, they do these initial screening interviews and everything with you, determine what programs you need to take while you're in prison. And they told me, because I have a marketable skill, my home improvement skills, that I didn't have to take any sort of vocational training when I was in prison. I never had to take any vocational training. And the Department of Correctional Services determined when I went to prison I had a marketable skill. And now that I'm home on parole, they don't want me to use my marketable skill. So when I went to prison, they determined that I had a marketable skill. And now when I come home, I'm not allowed to use that marketable skill. So my parole officer told me no, I'm not allowed to do home improvement work. I'm not allowed to have a bank account. I'm not allowed to drive. I don't have any DWIs. I've never used a vehicle as a weapon. I don't have any driving violations that would be grounds to deny me the ability to drive. I have a valid New York State driver's license. I can get a car, but parole won't let me drive. And I live in a rural county, and the bus service out here is so poor it might as well be non-existent. And not to mention that I'm about 4 to 5 miles from the nearest place that the bus comes to, and the places where I would need to go, it would be an all-day trip. So I would have to take a whole day off of work to go do any meetings for parole or whatever if I'm not able to drive. And that's just for parole. And then, parole wants me to find out about substance abuse treatment, even though I don't have a substance use problem. I'm supposed to get a drug treatment evaluation, and then all these other things. I'm in a rural county, and there's no easy way for me to get around. It turns transportation into an all-day event when there's no reason to ban me from driving. And what that does is that puts me in a position where I have to be a burden on other people, and I have to ask other people to take time off work to drive me. You know, my options are to spend 6 hours walking one way, or 2 hours riding on a bike one way, or ask somebody to take time off of work to drive me somewhere. And it's there. We're in upstate New York. Here in another month or two, there's going to be 3 feet of snow on the ground, and it just puts me in a position where I'm supposed to be a burden on people. So I'm not allowed to use the skill that I have. I'm not allowed to have a bank account. I'm not allowed to drive. And so there's this woman, Susan Ashline, and she wrote this book about me. For whatever reason, the state decided that she should not be allowed to have contact with me. You know, she was not a victim of a crime that I committed. She was not a witness. There's no order of protection. There's no court order barring us from contact with each other. You know, and so Susan wrote everybody in Albany, the state capital, that she was instructed to write. All the different Department of Corrections administrators. I wrote who they told me to write. We contacted all the people that we were instructed to write. We were allowed to have contact right up until the morning of my release. When I was behind prison walls, I could have contact with her. As soon as I stepped out of the prison wall on parole, banned from contact. So, on Facebook, Susan is not on my Facebook friends, but I've been getting messages from her through Facebook Messenger, and she doesn't know my phone number, she doesn't know where I live, and her and I get along. We don't have problems with each other. I mean, we care about each other. We're not boyfriend and girlfriend or anything. We're friends, and she's marketing my name and my story and my life, and so we're not Facebook friends. She's been sending me messages on Facebook, and in the messages she's stated that there is nothing barring her from contacting me. Parole is barring me from contacting her. So there's no reason why she can't send me messages over Facebook, according to her. And in those messages she also said that there's nothing that says I can't read the messages she sends me. It would be like her sending me a letter. If she put a letter in the mail and mailed it to me, there's nothing that says I can't open that letter up and read it. Alright, so we're not Facebook friends, but I'm getting these messages from her on Facebook. And just informational updates, and my attorney said this, and I need to take care of that. And so today when I met with my parole officer, I explained to him, I said, hey, I got my phone here. I wanted to let you know I've been getting messages from Susan Ashline, and I've got them in my phone so I can show you that I'm not responding to her and I'm not sending her messages back. And he asked me how am I getting messages from her? I said through Facebook Messenger. And he said, well, that's a violation because you're in contact with her. I said, I'm not in contact with her. She's messaging me. And he said, well, she's on your Facebook friends. I said, no, we're not Facebook friends. He said, well, how is she messaging you then? I said, I don't know. I don't know about Facebook. I haven't used Facebook in 6 years. I don't know how it works. And he told me that it's a violation for me to receive these messages from her, and that I need to block her on Facebook Messenger. I said, how do I block somebody on Facebook Messenger? He told me to ask somebody else. That I don't know these things. I mean, he's saying it's a violation for me to receive unsolicited communications from somebody else, and I'm not doing anything. When I came home, what I had hoped to do was go to work, to take care of myself and provide for myself and not have to ask anybody for anything. Over the last 6 years, enough people have had to go out of their way for me, and I have to pay that back. Maybe not in money, but in time and energy. But these restrictions, they put me in the same position I was in 2 weeks ago. And all I wanted was, come home, go to work this winter, find out about going back to Monroe Community College and work on finishing my degree. And it's just roadblock on top of roadblock, I guess. I mean, you put somebody in a rural county and tell them they can't drive and they can't use their skill, that's their only marketable skill. They can't contact somebody who wants to support them, and there's no good reason to bar them from contact with that person. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And